And now for the news and views from Asia and about Asia. What are the developments? Well, we can see that everything between China and ASEAN is on track. This first news item, Premier Lee assures ASEAN and world leaders of safe navigation in the South China Sea and the entire China Sea. This is from China Daily. Premier Li Keqiang said on last Tuesday, that China will firmly safeguard freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea. He said China, as the largest country in the South China Sea and a major user of the sea lanes, wants peace and stability for the region more than any other country. Lee made the remarks at the 12th East Asia Summit in Manila on Tuesday afternoon. Leaders of the 10 Association of Southeast Asian Nations countries, as well as those from the Republic of Korea, Russia, Japan, India, Australia, New Zealand, and the United States attended the meeting, which was chaired by Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. The meeting was part of the ASEAN Summit held in Manila. Since 2005, the annual meeting of leaders of 18 countries, including 10 ASEAN member states and 8 dialogue partners, serves as a forum for dialogue on broad strategic issues of relevance to East Asia, as well as other regional and global issues. Focusing on such areas as international terrorism, energy, infectious diseases, sustainable development, and poverty reduction. The situation in the South China Sea has been cooling down, Premier Lee said, noting that China and ASEAN announced plans to begin the next step of consultation on the text of a code of conduct in the South China Sea this coming Monday. Lee said this shows a willingness from both China and ASEAN countries to properly handle differences through consultation and maintain peace and stability for the South China Sea. Okay, and a bit on the business front now, to see also the transition in Asia. This startling news, Toshiba sells its TV business to Hisense. Hisense is a Chinese company. Let's listen to this news. Chinese home appliance maker Hisense Group said on Tuesday that it was acquiring the television business of struggling Japanese conglomerate Toshiba for 12.9 billion yen or $113.44 million to further expand its overseas business. Under the deal, Hisense Electric Company Limited, the listed unit of Hisense Group, would purchase a 95% stake in Toshiba Visual Solutions Corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary of Toshiba Corporation, while the Japanese company would retain the balance of 5%. The Qingdao-based company would gain access to the Japanese firm's television business, including production, research and development, and sales function. Toshiba Visual will also acquire the worldwide license to use the Toshiba brand for visual solutions products and services for 40 years, including connection with TVS as existing business partners in Europe, Southeast Asia, and other markets. Toshiba is not Hisense's first international acquisition. In 2015, Hisense purchased Sharp's TV business in Mexico and acquired Sharp's America's TV line for the North and South American markets. Huge nuclear cost overruns pushed Toshiba's Westinghouse into bankruptcy. So this is a major development in the business sector. Any impressions?
I would like to share. We organized a forum on Toward Inclusive Growth.
We meaning Integrated Development
Studies Institute with other partners on the practical benefits, practical value of Philippine-China relations. And what we found is Chinese companies has enabled the mass consumers to be able to afford products and items that before were out of our budget. For example, a flat screen TV a few years ago with American and Japanese and European brands.
Touchscreen
TV, or flat screen.
Flat screen.
Flat screen, okay. Yes. Would cost around maybe 100,000 pesos. But with the introduction or the entry of more players, particularly Chinese companies who have proven to be more competitive, they brought down prices at 30 to 40%.
So you can get the flat screen, widescreen TV for 50,
30, 40,000.
even 30. So that's 70%.
That's a 70%. Essentially, it enables the masses to afford these things, but indirectly it also makes them feel richer.
Yeah, and the question is, how can China do this? Well, the answer simply is because China's huge internal market supports this entire industry.
Correct.
And therefore they can make less profit per item and bring down the prices. Okay, let's move on to the other trade and bigger trade developments. Okay, ASEAN, the significant progress in RCEP. Okay, you can see there, ASEAN claims significant progress on RCEP. Well, let me check. I think we lost our prompter. So let's read from our hard copy. Okay. Association of Southeast Asian Nations has achieved many of the items on its economic agenda and made major progress in bringing forward the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP, through, though the negotiations have a long way to go, the Philippines Trade Department said. Speaking for ASEAN Economic Ministers, Chairman Ramon Lopez, the Secretary of Trade and Industry, Undersecretary Seferino S. Rodolfo said on Tuesday in Pasay City that much had been achieved on the RCEP front. The RCEP has been negotiated since 2012. It seeks to bring together ASEAN member states and China, Japan, South Korea, the US, Australia, and New Zealand, and in fact also India. Other priorities also achieved were the development of the ASEAN Inclusive Business Framework and ASEAN Work Program on Electronic Commerce 2017 and 2025. The Asian Inclusive Business Framework provides a platform for micro, small, and medium enterprises to become part of the supply chain of large and multinational enterprises. The work program on electronic commerce serves as the framework for uplifting medium and small-scale enterprises and lowering trade barriers through e-commerce. And I'm especially interested in this because I've been saying that the Belt and Road Initiative and all these big ticket projects have not reached down to the small and medium-scale enterprises. Any additional view on this?
Thank you, Kamentong, for bringing up this very important development. Actually, there's some media misrepresentation that the RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Program, is China's project. Actually, it is driven, initiated and largely driven by the ASEAN.
Started by ASEAN.
Yes. What is the purpose? It is to reconcile or synthesize a noodle bowl of treatises, of agreements that overlap. So instead of working, with 100 different agreements, RCEP aims to, what's the right word? Reconcile all of these agreements to make it more efficient and more productive.
Well, this is part of the integration.
Yes.
Campaign to integrate all these economies.
And to exploit the potential of the region as Asia's driving the global economy. At the same time, it also displays China's willingness to work with other partners, especially good proposals.
Yeah. Okay, now our prompter is back. And anyway, I'm the one who writes also the content of our prompter. So here we go. ASEAN leaders sign landmark Migrant Rights Pact. And this came out in GMA News. And I summarized it. Leaders of Southeast Asian nations led by President Rodrigo Duterte signed a landmark agreement on the protection of migrant workers. The signing took place at the tail end of the ASEAN Summit being held in the Philippines, of course. The agreement, called the ASEAN Consensus on the Protection and Promotion of Rights of Migrant Workers, has provisions that include allowing laborers to join unions and prohibiting employers from confiscating their workers' passports. Other provisions include upholding fair treatment of migrant workers with respect to gender and nationality, providing for visitation rights by family members, ensuring the protection of their right to access information pertaining to their employment, and employment-related conditions, and respecting the right to fair and appropriate remuneration and benefits. The signing of the agreement came a decade after the ASEAN adopted the Declaration on the Protection and Promotion of the Rights of Migrant Workers. So, about 212,435 Filipino migrant workers work in the ASEAN region, majority of whom were employed in Singapore and Malaysia, they stand to benefit from this agreement. And this is especially important for us and Indonesia, which are labor exporting even to within ASEAN. But it is also important for the broader goals of moving in the next phase to employment in China for our English-speaking household managers, the term that I think is being used there in China. So this would set the tone, and it will be a better market than what we have seen the past 4 or 5 decades with the Middle East. The culture would be more acclimatized for Filipinos, and with these new standards,
closer to home.
And with these new standards, subsequent opening up of markets will already have much better conditions than in the past. Anything to add?
We must also acknowledge the work of our president. As you mentioned, Kamentong, that the migrant migration movement of workers is very important for the Philippines as one of the largest exporting country. But the protection of migrants and their benefits is really handiwork of our president. I'm sure there was a lot of back and forth, but the fact that it was signed shows the leadership and the heart of the president for the Filipino people is really
yes. Well, I also want to emphasize to our audience the importance of awareness of all these international developments.
Yes, correct.
And I'm very happy we have this independent foreign policy that has created an awareness of all these, because now there is great and intense debate on this issue.
Yes.
And we take our migrant export for granted.
Yes.
Now, no longer. We begin to understand it better.
Also because the industry, the market is getting more competitive. Before, Filipinos were the #1 choice, for example, on service industry. But now, with Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia, they're really upping their game.
Our advantage remains the English language.
Yes, although the younger Southeast Asian brothers and sisters are also learning and acquiring their English proficiency.
Now, very important, I think, to stress also is, you see, it takes decades for these arrangements, agreements to be put up. And it's important, that's why we have this show of ours. Okay, we will move on now after this 4 news items to our focus on the Philippines and China. And the most important development from this ASEAN-China meet, this Vision 2030. We'll go into the details in just a while.